You talk about koan, and when I hear about koan, I often hear the word genjokoan. So is this something special, special koan that Soto practice, or we don't know anything about
well, it's related to the koans, but it's actually there's a lot to say about that. There are number of good books in English about genjokoan. Genjokoan is a particular writing by Dogen, one of his more famous writings. It's an essay about, and there are various translations of what the word genjokoan means. The first part of it is to manifest. One translation in English is actualizing the fundamental point. Another translation of genjokoan is the issue at hand. Anyway, there are numbers of ways to translate it, but it's a particular writing, particular essay by Dogen, who I mentioned, Eihei Dogen, who was the founder of Japanese Soto Zen in the 1200s. And there are many. It's a longish essay. It was originally a letter to a layperson in Kyushu, the southern island of Japan. But there are a few expressions in there that might be helpful. For example, Dogen says, when you project, when you carry yourself forward to experience the myriad things, that's delusion. So this is the delusion we all, live in or are trained to. We carry ourselves, we project ourselves out onto the world. We think the world is out there separate from ourselves. So that's what's called delusion by Dogen. Mm. Then he says, when the myriad things experience themselves, arise and experience themselves, that's awakening. So and that includes, of course, each of us. But when everything arises and experiences itself together, that's what Dogen calls awakening or enlightenment. He also says that, I'm paraphrasing now, he also says that enlightened people are enlightened about their delusions. They study their delusions. They understand, they experience their delusions. Deluded people are deluded about enlightenment. So that's another way he defines the difference. So he says many wonderful things in that Essay Genjokoan. One thing is, here is the way, here the place unfolds. So it's about being right here. It's not about being in Japan or China or Tibet or, it's about how do we actually be present and aware and express this deep awareness in this situation, this present situation of our lives. So there's many more things I could say about genjokoan, but that's a little bit. He also, I'll just say, add one other line. He says, to study the way is to study the self. To study the self is to forget the self. To forget the self is to be awakened by myriad things, and body and mind of self and other drop away. But the point is to study the self. So what's difficult about doing Zazen, Zen meditation, is not getting your legs into some funny lotus position, but that we see ourselves. We see our own patterns of grasping and anger and confusion. And Zazen, this practice of, this physical practice, it's a physical practice of sitting upright and relaxed and paying attention and breathing. And what happens in the middle of that is that thoughts come up and feelings come up, and we don't try and get rid of them. So the point is not to have a blank mind. That's lobotomy Zen. You can easily just have an operation and get rid of your brain. But so it's not about getting rid of thoughts. Although there are times when there are spaces between the thoughts, and that can be lovely. But it's actually about being present in the middle of feelings, in the middle of thoughts. So thoughts and feelings arise, we let them go. They may come up again. And as part of that, we see our own grasping, greed, hate, and delusion, we say, grasping and anger and confusion. And we learn our own patterns of reacting. And the more we can become intimate with that and feel the way we react, the more we don't need to be pushed around by it, the more we have a space to not react based on our karmic patterns of grasping and anger and frustration and confusion and fear and so forth, we have a chance to respond from something deeper.
Mm. Wonderful, wonderful. I was going to ask you about Zazen, but you already answered. So, but when I did Zazen, and when I look into the white wall for a long time, it just drove me crazy, and I was only thinking about when it's going to end. I think that's many of us feel like this for the first time. So, is there any advice for those people?
Yeah, just keep sitting. Just keep coming back to the wall. Just keep doing it. It's okay. Yeah, the thoughts and feelings come up. One of the great Japanese masters last century said that just when you're sitting, your stomach continues to secrete digestive juices. In the same way, your brain continues to secrete thoughts. So you don't have to be afraid of your thoughts and feelings. And if you're uncomfortable in the sitting position, so I recommend in some schools they carry around a stick and they hit people if they move. I'll say just find a sitting position that is, if not comfortable, at least that you can sit still and quietly for a while. And if you have to change the position when you're sitting in the meditation hall, if it's really extremely painful, then just do it quietly. My way of practicing with this is very gentle. It's not about reaching some particular way of being. Each person has their own way of being Buddha. So I encourage, and also, Zazen is like a performance art. You're performing Buddha. You're expressing Buddha on your seat in your own way. And part of Zazen is also finding your inner dignity and inner creativity. So I encourage students to find their own way to be creative and expressive of their deepest understanding and deepest love in the world. That's what Zazen is about.
Great, great. So again, this is not that some kind of a state of mind that we want to achieve.
Right. It's already there, but we don't know it. So you have to take time to stop and breathe and feel what is happening with this body mind here today on our cushion, beyond our ideas of who we are and beyond our ideas of what the world is. Those are just conditioned ideas.